Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Endzone. I'm Rob.
Ray.
And that's Ray. We're a father-son combination creating this podcast for you guys to tune in. We're going to be going over some fantasy football strategies and advice that we have. We just completed our fantasy football league draft. We actually have a keeper league, which is a little unique. Kind of the keeper league, we get to choose a quarterback, a receiver, a tight end, a running back, kicker, or defense, up to 3 players, one per position that we can keep every season. And so kind of the nice feature is, you kind of think of your strategies of who you want to keep, where you take them at in this year's draft. That also plays a factor. And then same thing with free agents.
Yeah, it's very exciting. We've had this league for a few years. I've been playing fantasy football for many years since I was a little kid. Used to borrow this guy's email. Actually played him in the championship last year too, so we both pretty much are at the top of the line when it comes to being within the league standings. We're usually top 3, top 5 at the very least. And that's really the point of this podcast. We just want to share our experience, our expertise, just have a fun time with it. Whoever tunes in, great, and just see where it goes. We're just doing it for fun, honestly, and as a hobby. So we just met for a coffee one morning a couple weeks back, and then now here we are. So it's very exciting. So we're very excited to share this experience with everyone. So we're going to go through obviously the whole season. And we're going to create a whole schedule for everyone to follow, and whoever subscribes or whatever. Just very excited to be doing this. So
yeah, if you ever have any questions, feel free to drop us a line, shoot us a DM, email us, reach out. We'll try to get to you as soon as we can and give you as best advice as we could, given the circumstances and the situations you're faced with. So kind of my strategy this year, well, every year, is I like to go running back heavy in the early rounds. I always try to get those premier running backs that I can gobble up and then give myself the best fantasy chance. Especially the last couple years, we changed to a half PPR league. So we were just straight no PPR at all. So we kind of made that change. And we also have an IR spot, which we added last year as well, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
The way these injuries have been happening, you get these superstars that go down, and the next thing you know, do I have to drop them and pick somebody else up? But then if I drop them, can somebody else pick them up for next season? So all that strategy comes into play when you're managing your team.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. You see some of these big stars, like back then, they get injured, get dropped, pick them up. And in our league, you pick up, it's a 10th round keeper pick for next year. So say, for example, when Saquon Barkley got hurt, this is actually a real example. He got picked up, and then the next season, he's eligible to be a 10th round pick. For whoever picked him up, they could keep him for that. So makes it pretty interesting, and it keeps the league competitive. You got guys like this guy's had Christian McCaffrey for the last few years. I've had Justin Jefferson since he was a rookie. So it's like we get these like ultra talented guys that we can build our team around. And so when I approach the draft in this type of league, it's just really what comes to me in the draft. I don't really have a set strategy. But what I like to do is I like to do mock drafts leading up to the real draft just to see where the rankings are, who's going to be available later on. Because usually people in this league, your first round pick's already gone with one of your top players that you're going to keep. For my example, I had Jonathan Taylor. And so I knew he was going to be gone in the first round, so I wanted to see who I could build my team off after keeping him, Justin Jefferson and my other keepers. So I just let the draft come to me. See, a good strategy for me too is like seeing what's available now and what's going to be available later. So in your case, you said running back heavy could be a really good approach this year, in my opinion, because there's a lot of good late round receivers, and all the good running backs are pretty early. Usually like first 4 or 5 rounds. So
I always try to get it 2, 3 if I can. Stack one on my flex. We have the wide receiver, running back, tight end flex spot, which is pretty nice. So, and another thing that makes our league unique is you have to carry 2 quarterbacks, 2 kickers, 2 defenses at all times on your roster. Otherwise, you forfeit the week. And that's been a nice little feature we've had to keep the league competitive. The free agent pool, there's plenty of hidden gems in there, so it gives everybody a fighting chance and not one person just gobbling up all the talent.
We got a 10-man league too, so that's a big help for that.
yeah, it definitely helps keeping the league competitive. So kind of going into this year too. There's been a lot of changes, especially of late.
It has been.
After our draft, we did see a lot of changes of people getting cut, people getting picked up, some injuries happening. So, this is going to be an exciting NFL season. He finished first, I finished second, so we're hoping to repeat that this year.
Yeah.
We're paying out the top 5 spots, which is nice. So we actually kind of expanded it a little bit to the top 5 because it's a lot of hard work that goes into managing this league every year. So.
Yeah, I always say this, the last few spots are really a dogfight. Those last, 4 or 5 spots to get into the playoffs, it's chaos. And so it's nice, I guess, rewarding some of those people that maybe just barely made the cut after a stressful season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good time, and something we're going to do too is kind of maybe co-host some of the people that finished top dog of the week or something, and just kind of make it basically like intriguing for them just to enjoy this experience with us as well and get them involved, because obviously they're part of a long fantasy journey with us too. So just ask maybe like what they did to approach for the week, and how they felt about the week, how they feel about the next week. So it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Yeah, I think that's good. We especially my brother Marco. He's been with us since day one, and Sin City Raiders is his fantasy football name in our league, and he's one of those guys that last year he kind of fell off. So like the last third of the season, he started strategizing for this year. So picking up C.J. Stroud and stashing him on his bench, great value for a keeper. So little things like that kind of happens. We have yet to trade draft picks. I think that's going to be coming in the near future as we're getting a little bit more familiar with it. So. But yeah, it's been a fun time. There's a lot of things that go into planning your season. We have some auto drafters that they kind of set their own little priorities, and there's some good teams that come out of the auto draft as well. So don't ever sleep on the auto drafters. So I think kind of recapping our draft, I think we're going to kind of go round by round and kind of talk about who we kept, why we and where we're at as far as our draft pick goes. So we actually did a reverse order. We usually did random, but now that we got, we're paying more spots, I think it was only fair to do the reverse order this year.
Yeah.
So he ended up with the 10th pick. I ended up with the 9th pick.
Yeah.
So my first pick this year was my first round keeper, and that's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that's great value for the 9th pick. I mean, top running back in the league, fantasy-wise, so it's been a no-brainer to keep him.
Yeah. The whole first round, I mean, it's just kind of wherever you could get for people that have live picks. So, like, Saquon Barkley went first overall. That was the first live pick of the draft, and he was honestly probably the best available on the board. So my first pick was Jonathan Taylor. I think he's in for a good season. He's been someone I've had for the past few years. Colts O-line's good. I like Shane Steichen as a coach. Anthony Richardson's back healthy, so I think it's going to be a good season for Jonathan Taylor. A lot of goal line opportunities and big run opportunities, with that read option. And then second round, I got my guy, so obviously I'm a Dolphins fan. Got my guy Devon Achane, and I was really high on him this year, and I was telling my dad coming into this draft, I was like, I really hope Achane's there with my next pick. I knew I was going to have the first pick in the second round because of our draft order. And it was I really wanted him to because I wanted to keep him this year. I had him last year as a rookie, and I drafted him super late, so if I kept him, it would have been good value. But my strategy was, okay, well, I'm going to have the 10th pick in the first round. I'm going to keep Jonathan Taylor, and I'm going to roll the dice and hope that Devon Achane is going to be there for the second round. And he was, and it worked out, so I'm very excited. I love this. Obviously, bias aside, this Miami Dolphins offense is just really high octane. It's a top flight offense, so I'm very excited for Devon Achane this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, his freaking yards per carry last year, 7+. Every time he touches the ball, he's almost a given to break it to the house. So
one thing I'm excited about too is Mike McDaniel said he wants to use him more in the pass game. So I'm like, let's go, baby.
It's a dangerous weapon, whether you're using them on a bubble screen or jet sweep. Whatever it is, I mean, obviously he said passing game, so sometimes I run that little come in motion full speed and then that little quick little shovel pass, little pitch. That's a good way to get that guy.
You got Hill, you got Waddle too out there with the speed, and so it's exciting.
Yeah, the Dolphins. yeah, they added a lot of good pieces, you know. And
He's a Dolphin fan too.
Mike McDaniel's with that new hairdo, so
yeah,
definitely went from you know, clean, you know, I don't want to say nerdy looking, but you know, he
very
kind of
clean,
clean cut, a little scruff going on.
Looks like a tech guy, maybe.
Got the part hair going like I got, and then now he's got like the hair going, the full beard. So.
He looks like he enjoys the Miami Beach. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, so that was a good time. So for me, my second round, I actually kept Jamar Chase, so that's my 1-2.
Very good.
So that's my receiver one that I kept. So that was my second round pick that was automatically given. Now it's kind of unique because he's going through a contract. He wants to get paid, which you know, contract disputes are never fun.
It's been the theme of the offseason, I would say, for the receivers.
Yeah, I think so too. And, you know, given that, you know, he's 3 consecutive Pro Bowls, you know, guy's been an outstanding player for the Bengals, and, you know, having Burrow back again this year, having his quarterback under center, I think that's going to help.
Nice and healthy, yeah.
So,
Slim
you know,
shady.
I'm hopeful that he's going to play week 1. I'm hoping that they do the right thing and pay the man.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, that guy generates so much value for that organization. So, but, you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely a little nervous, you know, going into week 1 to see what happens. I hope that he suits up and he gets paid and he's happy, and then I'm happy.
Yeah, he's such an elite receiver, such a talent. So
going into round 3, so like I said, snake draft. So now I had the 9th pick, and I took Travis Kelce. So my other keeper was Pat Mahomes, and so for me, you know, kind of looking at what was available on the board, it just made sense. I've never had Travis Kelce since I've had Patrick the last few years, and
you got close though.
Yeah, tried to trade for him last year for Mark Andrews. It didn't work out. But I did get Travis Kelce this year, so I'm looking forward to having, you know, better production. You know, they added some more weapons, just signed Juju's back, so I think that was a great signing for them.
Especially with Hollywood going down right now.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm really excited to have that pairing and doubling up on those points.
Yeah, that's good. And then I went Malik Neighbors with the 10th pick at round 3. I'm really high on Malik Neighbors. I mean, you see these LSU receivers coming out of college. They're just, I mean, we saw Jefferson, we saw Chase. Really top-notch guys. Malik Neighbors was an elite talent at LSU. Looked good with Jaden Daniels there. So I'm expecting big things. I mean, this Giants offense, they don't really have much there. They're going to be passing a lot. You know, run game's not going to be their strength, in my opinion. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think Malik Neighbors is definitely going to be a top-tier rookie in this league. And I liked Marvin Harrison Jr. this year as well. But, yeah, Malik Neighbors for sure should make some noise. And then round 4, that was my keeper pick, Justin Jefferson, like I was mentioning. So last year he was my 6th round pick. Each year we keep, they go up 2 rounds. So now he's my 4th round pick. So next year he'll be my 2nd round pick. I don't imagine I'm not going to keep Jefferson, you know. So
yeah,
I'm excited for him. Obviously, with the quarterback situation's a little iffy. It sucks that JJ McCarthy went down. I think he was in for a pretty solid rookie season. Obviously went down with the injury, but O'Connell's a good coach. He'll figure out how to get Jefferson involved with Sam Darnold. You know, that's going to be his number 1 guy most likely. And he did good with Nick Mullins last year, so I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, yeah, JJ, that guy's probably one of the most dynamic receivers we've ever seen from like day 1. You know, I mean, he set all kinds of rookie records, and he's going to continue to set records.
Yeah, he's so good.
And, you know, even missing a few games last year, and the guy still had over 1,000 yards receiving. So.
Yeah, he got paid, too.
Yeah, so it's incredible. So I'm rooting for Jefferson all the way.
Yeah.
My 4th round keeper had the 2nd pick, Patrick Mahomes. So that was my QB that I kept. You know, he was my 6th round pick last year, so I was definitely pleased with having him in the 4th round. Next year, he'll be my 3rd round pick, so... Yeah.
Well, 2nd. It goes up 2.
Well, no, because I have...
Oh, because you have Chase. That's right.
Chase, so I'll have McCaffrey.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So I won't have a pick till the 4th round next year, so we'll see. Might have to shake it up a little bit. Who knows? But we'll see how the production goes this year. So I'm excited for Patrick. You know, he was great last year. You know, having all those receivers drop those balls, you know, it took him forever to cut Tony, and I don't know why they didn't cut him sooner, but it was a little frustrating last year, especially with some of these big plays that they could have hit that they just totally dropped. So
you talk about some of the interceptions we had too, just boom right off the guy's hands. Yeah. And
I'm a big fan for, like, you know what? If it deflects off your receiver's hands, it shouldn't count against the quarterback. I really wish they would change that stat.
Their job is to throw the ball, right? So the receiver's supposed to catch it.
Yeah, but that's never going to happen. So it's always the quarterback's fault, even though he hits them in the hands. And so, whatever.
Watch snap, best snap. It always counts on the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're the stars of the franchises and the centerpieces of the offense. So, but yeah, so I was happy to keep Mahomes. I'm excited for this year. Hollywood Brown. It'd be exciting when he gets out there and have that speedster. Juju back. On the team. I think that's going to be great. And they have a lot of good. Rashee Rice. It sounds like his suspension's not going to happen until next year. So that's kind of good. I mean,
and they got Worthy too.
Yeah, so they got a lot of nice things going on, and then the running back depth that they just added P. Ryan. So that's a
underrated in my opinion.
Good little piece to have in the back there. So
good pass catcher, pass catching power back for sure.
Yeah, so I'm excited. And then segueing into the 5th round, so I had the 9th pick, and so I ended up going Tank Dell, get a second receiver. As far as like top end running backs, I had my eyes on Alvin Kamara. However, I had him queued up, and my buddy Sin City Raiders drafted him, so I was a little bummed. And then I was thinking Montgomery. My wife took him, so then
good old auto draft.
Yeah, what am I gonna do now? So Tank Dell, I think he's big play guy for Houston. C.J. Stroud likes throwing to him. It's unfortunate he was blocking on the goal line last year and snapped his leg, but I think he'll be back this year, and I think he's going to be looking to have a great bounce back season this year.
Yeah,
with that offense.
Texans are really up and coming, and something about Tank Dell too. C.J. Stroud wanted to draft him, so it's like it's kind of like Patrick Mahomes too with Rashee Rice. They wanted to draft these guys, and obviously Rashee Rice, almost looked like he took the team's #1 target share last year, and then Tank Dell. Not saying he's gonna do that with Nico there. You got Diggs, but he's definitely a big playmaker. He's looking pretty good in the preseason. So I think he's in for a solid year. And my 5th pick, I went Anthony Richardson. I think he's going to have a tremendous year. I was debating between him and Kyler Murray. It was really a toss-up. But ultimately, what sold me on Richardson, my dad was like, hey, you get him and pair him with Jonathan Taylor. I'm like, that's a good point. Now I don't have to be mad if Richardson takes the goal line snap and takes those touchdowns from my guy Taylor. But yeah, I'm excited about him. Like I said, I love Shane Steichen. He did good with Jalen Hurts. Anthony Richardson's like 7 foot almost. Not, he's like 6'5" or whatever. And he runs just like a track star. It's crazy. So I think he's in for a good year. I was hoping Jalen Waddle will be available, but kind of a stress there. And I was looking at Kamara too and Ken Walker, but this is who fell to me. And then going into the 6th round, I took George Pickens from the Steelers. I think, he's really an underrated receiver in this league, and I think he's got some elite talent. He's got a chip on his shoulder this year. I don't know if you guys saw, but he was rated like 83 in Madden, and so he was like, I'm going to be a lot higher by the end of the season, so I think that's going to fire him up. But also the Steelers offense, I mean, you got rid of Deontay Johnson. It's just really Pickens there, getting the targets. He's a big play guy, makes every catch out there. I mean, some of the craziest catches I've ever seen. Kind of like Puka Nacua, where they just make those, like, every catch, it seems like. So yeah. I'm very excited for George Pickens this year. I think he has a solid year.
No, I agree. Yeah, Pickens has been great. I had him stashed on my bench last year, and every time that I got him in there, he produced, and I think you're right. I think he's gonna, he's the guy. So with Deontay Johnson gone, he's #1. So definitely gonna be looking to get more of those targets, those big targets too. So yeah, dynamic catches all around for that guy.
Oh yeah.
And then I went with Najee Harris as my 6th round pick, running back. So adding another piece to the running back tree. And yeah, I've had Najee a couple years ago, and he did good for me. Solid. It seems like every year he's got 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. So, I think he's going to be another good asset for myself this year. Like I said, I didn't get Kamara, so I was kind of looking at the next best things and options that were available. So I kind of felt like in the 6th round for the value, I felt like that was great value, taking Najee Harris.
Yeah, one thing too is they got Arthur Smith at OC, and he loves to run the ball. I mean, we saw how much he ran with Atlanta last year, so I think Najee Harris 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons should be a lock, at least for a 4th consecutive. So
yeah, that's what we're hoping. And then going in the 7th round, so I had the 9th pick, and then I took James Conner. So I had him last year on another league, and the guy was a touchdown machine for me last year, and he got dinged up for a couple games, but he still produced very well. And then getting Kyler Murray back is going to help.
Oh, yeah.
when they run that read option, and especially when they get down inside the red zone. So I'm looking forward to having James Conner back. So I had him when he was rookie in Pittsburgh and produced very well. So very familiar with James Conner, and I'm loving having him on my team.
One thing about him is like he's super consistent, and he always gets the job done. I mean, he's another guy that he could easily run for 1,000 yards. Arizona's kind of like an up and coming young roster, so James Conner I think is definitely a solid piece of that offense. They're going to be moving the ball this year with Kylie back, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride emerged, so he's a good pass catching back too. And then yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. And then with my 7th round, 10th pick, I went Evan Ingram, and I've been so big on him all off season. So, in preseason, I really think he had like 114 catches last year, and so I don't really see that changing this year.
No.
I think Doug Peterson loves these tight ends. We saw him in Philly do that with Ertz, and who was the other guy they had? Was it Selleck, I think? I don't know. They used to have a couple tight ends, and they would always get him involved. So now you got Evan Ingram. Fresh off 114 catches. Calvin Ridley's gone this year, so I mean he's a familiar face. I think he's gonna get more red zone work. I think he only had maybe 4 touchdowns last year. I think that goes up this year. So, and then I went to in my 8th round. I have Justin Fields. So this is more of a dynasty play, and I'm a big Justin Fields fan for one. But I traded for him when he was in Chicago, and he got MVP vote. He was up there producing as a top-tier fantasy quarterback and ended up winning me a championship last year. So he went to Pittsburgh this year, and I was like, well, okay, you got Mike Tomlin. I think it's a good long-term play. I was hoping he'd beat out Russ, but ultimately, they went with the veteran. But I think Justin Fields, given when he gets a shot, I think he'll be really good. He does have a few things to clean up in terms of processing quicker, but he's such a talent. I mean, Me personally, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks coming out of Ohio State when he got drafted. And I think, he's yet to really shine in this league. He's shown some big plays, but I think the consistency will come. He's got good accuracy, and he's just so tremendous with the ball in his hands. So,
yeah, I agree. And then, we've seen him run for big runs, breaking through and taking it to the house. In elements, I mean, this guy was dropping bombs with DJ Moore last year in the freaking rain and snow. So
yeah, that Falcons game last year, he made some crazy throws.
So yeah, I can definitely see, especially this late, not knowing the situation in Pittsburgh.
Sure.
I knew it was a risk, but I think you're definitely smart for stashing him at least.
Yeah, he's my dynasty guy. I think,
yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Through the season. Russell Wilson, I wasn't sure if he was actually. I kind of was thinking he might be done, but he won the starting spot, so I'm sure at some point, I think it might switch. So
yeah, I think so too.
Definitely rooting for your guy. And then so 8th round, I ended up going with Rashee Rice. So like I said, once I kind of figured out his suspension's probably not going to be until next year, I rolled the dice, and so now I have Mahomes, Rice, and Kelsey. So
that's a good trio.
Looking pretty good for that trio, and then stacking them, because when Mahomes likes dropping those bombs, and
those are his top 2 guys, I would say too.
Yeah.
So
definitely looking forward to that. And then going into the 9th round, I decided to roll the dice and stack a running back by the name of Zach Moss on my bench. So with Joe Mixon leaving, going to Houston, Zach Moss produced well when JT went down last year for the Colts. And, I feel like it's good value for the 9th round. Figured that he'd be, at least solid backup option, for the bye weeks and stuff. And you never know, if he catches fire, maybe we get some run with him.
He looked good with the Colts last year, and, he got Burrow back healthy. One thing about Cincinnati is they do love to run the ball at the goal line. So I think Zach Moss, obviously he's a good goal line back. We saw that last year. I think it's an underrated play. I mean, obviously you got Chase Brown there, who they like too, and I think he's a good talent. But they signed Moss, I think, for a couple of years, like $8 million. So it's like, they wanted the guy obviously, and I think he's a good addition to the offense, especially with Mixon out. And then in my 9th round, I went Jaden Daniels. So I got some quarterback insurance, obviously. At the time when we were drafting, I wasn't sure if Fields was going to start. I kind of had a feeling Russell was going to start. And I was big on Jaden Daniels too, so I was like, I'm just going to take the guy. Like, I love him coming out of LSU. I think he's my favorite quarterback in this draft class this past year. I think he's a tremendous talent. I mean, the guy ran like a greyhound in college and also just insane accuracy. So I'm really excited what they're gonna do in Washington with him. And he's got McLaurin there. Diami Brown's kind of emerging, so it'll be interesting to see how he pans out. He looked good in the preseason, so I feel very good about this pick for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And then going into the 10th round, so I took Nick Chubb with my first pick. For me personally, it's like the guy I know he pretty much destroyed his whole knee. It was early in the season last year, which is kind of why I took the bid on him. I was like, okay, he had plenty of time to recover. Cleveland's got a good old line too, and they love to run the ball. One thing about Chubb too is he's very north-south, so he likes to go just straight through that hole and up the field. So it's not like he's really a left to right back. I feel like he's more north-south, and I think that's kind of beneficial to what happened with him. Recovering from his injury, and I was like, well, 10th round, we got the IR spot now, so I'm stashing him there. And I think if he turns back into form, at least 70-80% of that way, that's tremendous value. So
yeah, no, I think if you were going to take him, I was going to take him. So had kind of the same strategy. Unfortunately, starting off on the PUP list, so he will miss the first 4 games of this season. But yeah, I think for the value of Nick Chubb, especially in the late rounds, I mean, it's a no-brainer. That guy is a top tier back when he's healthy, and he's shown it year after year. Even when he had what was the guy backing him up?
Oh, Ford.
No, not Ford.
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt.
Back in the day,
his name was escaping me. But yeah, even when Kareem Hunt, came and everyone was like, "Oh man, he's gonna be splitting carries," and
still was out on top.
Chubb flexed on him and showed him who was boss, and he's such a great runner for that Cleveland organization. So
yeah,
we're rooting for him to come back healthy and do what he does.
He's such a talent. He's got good vision, man.
Yeah. So 10th round, I had the second pick in the round, so I actually went with Jaden Reed. So he's another guy that showed a lot of glimpses last year, especially when Watson went down for that Green Bay offense. And I felt like he built a pretty good rapport with Love, and I kind of like what they're doing over there in Green Bay. After the Aaron Rodgers era, so I think they're on a good track. And this guy's got some dynamic play-making ability, and he's very fast, quick, agile. Yeah. So looking forward to seeing what he does this year.
Yeah, I almost think he's really good value for round 10 in this situation, especially. I think he's personally the best receiver on that Packers offense. I mean, people love Watson. They love Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks. But I think Jaden Reed's better than all of them. I think he's really that true X factor on that offense. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could do it all, like you said. They could throw it to him deep. He could take a short one to the house. And they like to run the ball with him, too. So he's heavily involved. And he was someone I had on my team last year, and I was really pleased with him later on in the season. And I think, it's tremendous value here for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. And then going into the 11th round, I decided to grab my defense, and I grabbed our Miami revamped defense this year. Sorry, Ray. I know Ray had his eye on them, but I actually saw them available in the 11th round, and I'm like, you know what? Why not, man? With all the pieces they added, getting Poye, and then it's that secondary is going to be tenacious. We got some guys coming back from injury on the, on the D line, and losing Wilkins, hurt. We lost him to the Raiders, but I feel like they've added some great pieces to kind of fill the voids and plug in for injuries. And then when those guys come back, when Chubb and Phillips come back, completely full healthy, I think it's going to be a tenacious defense to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think so too. Like you said, I wanted to get them in this round. I was like, oh, cool. And then he literally said, sorry, Ray, like right before. But yeah, I mean, this defense is obviously, bias aside, really good. Got the new DC and Anthony Weaver from Baltimore, and Baltimore did some great things there. So they're going to use Jalen Ramsey nicely in that slot and outside hybrid role. And then pass rush is good. Calais Campbell brought in some veteran presence. I think it's going to be a really good year for us too.
Too bad Shaq Barrett didn't stick around.
Yeah, I was pretty sad, but at least we got Chop Robinson. I think that's a pretty good draft pick that we got in the first round. So very excited for him and Chubb and Phillips. And then I went Jackson Smith and Jigba right after that pick, and I think Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm so excited. I think he's going to be a really good receiver this year. He was an elite talent in college. He played with guys at Ohio State that were Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and he was just, well above them in terms of being the alpha receiver. And I think he's yet to show what he's really capable of in the NFL. They got the new coach from Washington Huskies college coach. that's their OC now, and obviously we saw what Michael Penix did last year, and how the receivers look. So I think Jackson Smith and Jigba's in for a really tremendous season, and he's a really undervalued receiver this year. Round 12, I took T.J. Hawkinson. You know, my backup, like my dad said, we need 2 tight ends, and guy's an elite talent when he's healthy. Obviously, he's coming off injury. But, you know, Sam Darnold's going to need to throw to somebody, right? So, and I think tight end's always pretty safe for quarterbacks that aren't super proven and that like to run the play action like Minnesota does. And obviously, Darnold's pretty decent at play action. So, I think Hawkinson's in for a good year. He's a red zone target, too. And so that's why I took him round 12.
Yeah, and he's been one of the best tight ends in the league for the last few years. You know, I mean, when he was with Detroit, you know, he showed it. Minnesota showing it. So yeah, he's been elite.
Absolutely.
And then for me, I took my kicker, Evan McPherson. You know, Cincinnati. So he's been one of the guys up there. I mean, obviously the top ends are going to be Tucker and Bucker. So those guys were already gone. So I went with McPherson, thinking, okay, well, you know, Bengals, they like to put up points. And, you know, sometimes their drives do stall and kicking field goals, and he's been pretty successful. Yep. So I felt like it was a good choice in the 10th round. And then segueing into the 13th round, so I grabbed my backup QB, Aaron Rodgers. You know, Dolphins fan, it's hard for me to take a Jet. But, you know, Aaron Rodgers I felt like was great value for the 13th round. I just need him to start in 1 week when Mahomes is resting. And so I figured that would be a great person. You know, he's got something to prove again this year. You know, he's one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in our era. So, you know, and the things that he did in Green Bay, remarkable. It's unfortunate he got hurt on the first snap of last year. So we didn't get to see what he gets to do.
It was kind of good for us, though, but for Dolphin fans.
Yeah, but you know, we never wish injury on anybody.
Wish injury, though,
yeah, because this league is, you know, it's such a fast-paced and physical league, and
absolutely,
and literally he just tried to step and then blow out his Achilles. So
something about that MetLife turf, man, in New York, you know, it's pretty unfortunate, but I think he does come back this year. He's accurate with the football. I used to have him back in fantasy when he was in Green Bay. I used to love it, and he's still got that good arm talent. You got Garrett Wilson there, Breece Hall, Mike Williams, so it's a good pick for sure, I think, too. And then I went with Pittsburgh defense, round 13. I think that's one staple of this team always that keeps them competitive is that defense. You know, Mike Tomlin does a good job with them year in and year out. You got Patrick Queen there. Obviously, the pass rush is tenacious with T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith. And then one thing, too, I think Minka Fitzpatrick hasn't been playing his best football the past couple of years. I think he comes back this year nice and healthy, ready to go. And I think, you know, Pittsburgh, that's going to be their staple again this year. So, and then 14th round, I went with Dicker the kicker through the Chargers. I think he's a really good kicker for sure. He's consistent, and one thing, you know, they brought in Jim Harbaugh this year. We saw Robbie Gould with the Niners back in the day. I mean, he was literally fantasy gold. So I think Cam Dicker's in for a good season, and with Justin Herbert banged up too, he might get some extra work early on too, you know, not finishing drives. So
yeah, no, I agree. I think that's great value, especially, you know, 14th round. You know, I mean, he's been proven to be steady and, you know, consistent, you know, with his makes, and I think it's going to continue to only get better.
Absolutely.
So 14th round, I took my second defense, which was Houston. You know, DeMeco Ryans got those guys playing at a high level, and they do great scheming over there. So I really like the Houston defense as my backup defense to Miami Dolphins.
That secondary is really good, too.
Yeah. And then going into the 15th round, I took Jerome Ford, so kind of stashed him, you know, late. You know, figured, you know, what happens with Chubb. The time we were drafting, we didn't know if Chubb was going to be on the PUP list or not. So I kind of took a chance and just kind of stashed him there just in case if Chubb's not starting, and, you know, kind of see how Najee and Connor get off to start. So, you know, I feel like that's pretty good value. You know, he's always been a great backup option. And, you know, when he does get the chance to start, he has produced. So
yeah, he looked good last year, and obviously he's going to start early. And they'll probably ease Chubb back in, you know, off the injury too. And then I went with Chris Boswell right after. I think obviously, you know, he's been productive as well with Pittsburgh. And obviously the offense has improved, better quarterback play, so there's more position for field goals. And I mean, you saw Younghoe Koo last year with the Falcons with Arthur Smith there. Arthur Smith here with Pittsburgh. So I think Boswell obviously was a good pick. And with kickers, I mean, you could always, if you need to change them out, it's not the worst thing in the world. You know, there's always those guys on the waiver wire that go for like 12, 13 points a week. So if you need to adjust, it's there, right? So same thing with defense. So my second defense, because we need 2 defenses, 2 kickers, obviously. So my second defense, I went with Atlanta. And I think Raheem Morris there, defensive coordinator, they got a pretty decent core. They brought in Matthew Judon, so the pass rush is going to be upgraded. And then you got Grady Jarrett there. So I think, it's a pretty decent defense. And same thing, if I need to drop him eventually, I could. So I really wanted New Orleans here, but they ended up getting taken, sadly. Like, literally the round before, a couple picks before. So, but I went with Atlanta, and I feel pretty good about it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great backup option. Kind of seeing how the league shapes up. It's kind of with 20 of the defense are going to be taken, so, it's going to be kind of slim pickings, late. But you never know. Like, there's always weird things that happen, and then all of a sudden, a defense that's been under the radar emerges as one of the top.
Yeah.
Always
stream, too, which is another aspect.
Yeah, so that's always a good feature to have. So, and then for me, my last pick, I took Matt Gay. I had him a couple years ago, and he's my backup kicker. Colts, they're going to be moving the ball, and depending on what happens, if they're not scoring a lot of touchdowns or kicking field goals, I think with Richardson and JT, they're going to be putting them in positions to get points no matter what every possession. So that was kind of my thought process. So I figured, why not? And we'll see who has the hot leg, who's been producing, and give me some of that flexibility.
Yeah, and he was good with the Rams too. I mean. So he has a history of being a consistent kicker, and I think it's a good spot. I mean, obviously they had Rodrigo Blankenship a couple years back, and he was automatic. So I think it's a good pick too. But yeah, I mean, that was our draft, and obviously there's always going to be waiver wire moves we make and stuff. So we'll keep everybody updated. And one thing we're going to do too is we're going to do an Instagram live every Sunday before football prime time. Obviously it's not the nighttime, but like just that whole. Red zone. We watch NFL Red Zone, so like the whole Red Zone spread, early morning, afternoon, and just help people or like just talk about starts, sits we like, matchups we like, and just just like I said, have fun with it. So, and if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to reach out, drop any comments you want, or we can always on Instagram Live address any questions you may have, or just do some analysis for you. And so, very excited about the football season. I think it's going to be a great one. A lot of moves happening this offseason. And obviously, preseason too. Jahan Dotson to the Eagles. P. Ryan to the Chiefs. So it's like, a lot of moves happening now too, shaping up the league. And so it'll be a good year for football. And I think the Dolphins finally have a pretty solid season this year. Hopefully we go past the first round for once. And I think this is our best shot to do it. So I think Tua has a good year. And I think... that's going to definitely, he slimmed down this offseason, got his contract. I think he takes the next step this year, so I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, Like, I feel like the AFC East this year is shaping up for Miami to take it all.
Yeah.
Especially with Buffalo losing so many big pieces this year. I know, parity happens all the time in the NFL, but they lost a lot of big pieces. They lost their receiving core. They lost big starters on defense. So, be interesting to see what happens. They got Josh Allen. That guy's
he's always going to be up there.
Yeah, he's always got something to say about it. But I feel like...
I think he had like 15 rushing touchdowns or something last year. Something crazy.
Yeah, so we'll see how it is. I think it's shaping up well for Miami this year. If Tua can just... I like to be he's a great character guy. He just hasn't shown me in those big games and those tough situations. So for me... the jury's still out. I want him to succeed. I really do. Yeah. But, man, it's been tough to get behind him as far as a thrower in the NFL.
Yeah, it's both, funny enough, I'm wearing his jersey, but I was like, well, I got to get the franchise quarterback's jersey. But anyways, one thing, we weren't big on him when the Dolphins drafted him. At the time of that draft, I was like, I wanted him to get Jalen Hurts or the next year Justin Fields. That was my whole thing. But... Tua, he's grown each year, which is good to see, and he consistently wins. against the bad teams like you're saying. So
Yeah.
obviously, when it comes to big games, it's like we want to see him step up and just take that next level. He's super accurate with the football, and he processes things so quick. So one thing, it's like hopefully I saw a Kurt Warner video one time, and he was talking about the Chiefs game and how Tua just processes so quick that sometimes he rushes things. So it's like, and obviously when the pass rush gets to him, he processes it quick. He make a mistake. So I think just honing that in, slowing the game down a bit will be good. Obviously, slimming down this offseason, arm strength's looking good. Hopefully, we get the best season of Tua and just keep growing from there. So,
Yeah.
and McDaniel's such a great coach too. So,
Yeah, I think so. I'm rooting for Tua. I really like him as a person. Great person. Great family man. I just, one of the things that kind of I feel like where he gets into trouble is if the first couple reads aren't there, then what?
yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I've already processed everything. I've already did my reads. Then what do I do? And I feel like, especially when they're playing from behind, that's where I feel like he has to show a little bit of growth there.
Yeah,
So-
he doesn't have that speed, that elite speed or, elite arm strength. So, that's where, kind of like Drew Brees, you have to be ultra accurate with the ball every time. And
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be an interesting season, and we're excited to see where this journey takes us. Feel free to follow us on Instagram. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube, and we're gonna have a TikTok up too, doing some little short videos as well. So very excited just to start this thing and having fun with it. So
Yeah.
that's the big thing.
Well, thank you very much for watching, and we appreciate the support. Like we said, anything you guys want to talk to us about, just shoot us a DM, and we'll be
Yep.
happy to get back to you.
Absolutely.
Take care, and thank you for watching.
See ya.